The phoenix is a monster that we do not usually associate with other mythological creatures that are generally categorized as monsters, like vampires or werewolves. But the phoenix is a monster, and it serves a purpose in our stories, both fantastical and religious, and it has been a part of them for much longer than I had originally thought when I started this research project. The mythical bird of fire that we know as the phoenix may have originally had its roots in ancient Egypt, and possibly other ancient civilizations. The best documented would be the ancient Egyptian sunbird known as the Bennu. This sunbird, however, looked nothing like how we today picture phoenixes, as it closely resembled a heron and was generally a blue-gray color as is shown in these images. The Bennu would wear either a solar disk or the white crown of Upper Egypt combined with the ostrich feathers of Osiris. This specific crown is known as the Atef crown, and only deities special to the god of the dead are depicted wearing it. The Bennu bird is seen as particularly special to Osiris because in Egyptian myth, the Bennu originated from the heart of Osiris. The Bennu is also associated with the sun god Ra, and one of its many perches is the sacred Benben stone. This pyramidal-shaped stone represents the sun's rays shining down to earth, and through their connection, the Bennu name meant to rise brilliantly or to shine. Similarly to traditional myths about the phoenix, the Bennu would return to the temple at Heliopolis every 500 years to make a nest of aromatics and die in flames filled with the sweet scents of cinnamon and myrrh. And the next day from the ashes, a worm would appear. On the second day, it would look like a baby chick and have wings. On the third day, it would fly off to repeat the cycle. The Bennu was very special to the Egyptians, and the priests would mummify herons at the temple of Heliopolis to help in their practices. They believed that the Bennu was associated with the rising of the Nile and the sun. They even associated its rebirth with their calendars. During these later years, the Egyptians were in contact with the outside world, and the idea of a bird who was reborn from its own ashes was very appealing to the classical civilizations. In classical Greece and Rome, the creation of what we today would associate with the phoenix was born. Scholars like Hesiod and Herodotus wrote about the possible life expectancy of a phoenix compared to a nymph. Apparently, the general consensus is that nymphs live 10 times as long as phoenixes, and most classical scholars thought that phoenixes would go through their rebirth cycle somewhere between every 500 and 1500 years. Phoenixes still went to Heliopolis to die and be reborn. However, how they died was a little bit different. There, once they built their nest, they would wait for the sun to set the twigs on fire, or they would beat themselves with their wings until they caught on fire. However, now that we're in classical Greece and Rome, the phoenixes lived on the Isle of the Blessed and were the companions of Venus, the Roman goddess of love. This is also where the first mentions of the phoenix's singing are mentioned. However, singing is only talked about as the singing of a lament. The phoenix has no one to mourn it when it dies, so it must sing its own death lament. Phoenix songs are songs of sadness and death. The phoenix itself begins to represent the passage of time and the possibility of life after death. It is hope for the people so that when they die, they will go to the Elysian fields and not Tartarus, the classical version of hell. Emperors begin to put the image of the phoenix on their coins as a version of power and the hopes that they too will be reborn after their reign is done. After the classical period, phoenixes are brought into Christianity. They are portrayed in bestiaries and decorate many manuscripts, buildings, and even more modern coins and crests. The idea of rebirth fits into Christianity very well during the medieval period, when all kinds of monsters and creatures are being appropriated into the Christian faith as lessons. The phoenix is kind of special in that it becomes a physical representation of the resurrection of Jesus Christ. The church readily accepts that a mythical bird bursts into flames and then 3 days later, just like Christ, is completely reborn from the ashes. It is a good story to tell to the followers of the church because if Jesus and the phoenix can be reborn, then your soul can be reborn too. It becomes the ultimate symbol of power because even if you face defeat, you will ultimately rise triumphant from your ashes. Phoenixes are still present today, like in the city of Phoenix, Arizona. The city was named in the 1850s and it was suggested by Lord Durell Dupa because it was a city that was being born from the ruins of a former civilization, just like the phoenixes of ancient and classical civilizations. One of the most popular and well-known phoenixes in today's literature and movies is Fawkes from Harry Potter. J.K. Rowling named her Phoenix after Guy Fawkes of the failed gunpowder plot in 1605. This failed plot is celebrated in England every year on November 5th by burning Guy Fawkes in effigy and holding a fireworks display. Rowling's Phoenix is a little different than traditional phoenixes. Phoenixes are not typically known to have healing powers, and yet Fawkes can heal with his tears. However, there is another mythological bird called the Halcyon who had healing abilities that she may have borrowed from. Fawkes also does not keep with the general only burst into flames every 500 years or so, because we know that he has done so at least twice while in the presence of Dumbledore, and Fawkes has only been Dumbledore's companion for less than 100 years. Rowling has kept many similarities, though. The coloring of the phoenix is the same as classical phoenixes, and whenever Fawkes sings something bad is usually going on. The most memorable for me is the song during Dumbledore's funeral before Fawkes flies off, never to be seen again. Many readers associate Fawkes with religious connotations, which is typical seeing as phoenixes have had a religious nature since the ancient Egyptians. He is seen in the books as a representation of the Holy Spirit, while Harry is a Jesus figure and Dumbledore is a God figure. And of course, he is also seen to represent the resurrection of Jesus and of life after death, just like the phoenixes in medieval churches were. Fawkes' purpose as a monster in this fantasy series is to be a symbol of hope when all hope seems lost. He heals terrible wounds and mourns awful deaths and creates fiery displays of power. But overall, he is there to show us that when everything is lost and burned to the ground, something new and good can grow out of it.